So in case you haven't seen it by now, I'm going to be having a conversation with T1 CEO Joe Marsh. By the time you're watching this today, if you're watching this past Monday, it will have already been recorded and it will be posted on Wednesday. This is the full list of topics that I've worked out that we are going to address specifically. Joe has already said nothing is off limits, but we are opening this up to community questions as well. If there's anything that you see that's not on this list that you think needs to be addressed, I will talk about it. I do want to note, not going to spend all that much time on the Zeus stuff. It's he said, she said between agents, everybody else. I am obviously going to mention it. I said it in here, but I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it. I don't think there's much point to that. We got bigger things to talk about with the whole esports ecosystem, but I just wanted to get it out there before people, potentially cause a hissy fit. But in preparation for this interview, one thing that I wanted to do was I wanted to take some time to really dive in to the LoL esports ecosystem as a whole right now. A lot is changing going into 2025, notably the formats for each and every region. And while, for the sake of this video, I'm going to exclude the LPL because there's just too much going on over there. I don't have time. I do want to look at all three major regions formats and compare them and rank them based on split. So let's kick this off with the winter split. I'm going to give a quick TLDR for the individual formats within each region, but if you want the full breadth of things, be sure to go check out the primers from each region that cover all of this. For the LCK, they are actually doing a very kind of complicated but really cool version of the lock-in tournament that we used to see with the LCS, where teams are going to be divided into two different groups, of which captains, who finished first and second place from last year, will get to pick their teammates. So you will pick your 5 teammates, and all the matches that you play will be against the other group. The team with the best record cumulatively sends their top 3 teams directly into the playoffs. Their bottom 2 have to fight against the other group in play-ins, and the worst team from the losing group is eliminated. It does sound complicated, I know. The LCK in general this year, formats are kind of complicated, but I will say I love this particular tournament and this setup that they're doing. There will eventually be one winner by nature of the fact that you need to send one team to an international event, which luckily we have 3 international events now. The drawback for this particular format is that I do think there is going to be a problem with the teams that qualify out of like the winning group having to wait for the entire play-in stage to go through before they play again. We've seen this at Worlds in every international tournament now, where when you give teams rest and you give other teams the ability to just play and continue to get reps, it does actually create a disadvantage. So I'm curious to see if that does impact who wins this split of the LCK, or well, the LCK Cup, because that's a very important distinction that I will get into later. For the LEC, really not much to note. It's the same format as everybody was used to last year that we saw 3 different times. Luckily, it's not 3 of the same this year, but it's a familiar format. For the LTA, or North America, for those that don't know, the LTA is now, or LCS is now LTA. It's a double elimination bracket that will just send the top 4 teams to play against the top 4 teams from the South Conference. And then it's a single elimination bracket to send one team into the international event. For the LTA, the thing that makes me weary about this format is because it's implying that there's equal weighting between the North and South conferences, when realistically, there's not. I love the idea of like a lock-in style tournament being back, but like it's hard for me to get like super excited about this playoff that we're sending our top 4 teams to, rather than just watching our top 4 teams play each other. Given that I think that we're just going to smash whoever we send. I don't even think it's going to be close. So, I mean, we should still get a FlyQuest versus Team Liquid final, but it feels like we're adding additional steps that we didn't really need to, but it's just by nature of the conferences merging, so it is what it is. So, if I'm ranking the winner splits, like which ones am I most excited to see? I am going to put the LEC third. I think the same format as before. A little bit boring, but I get why. It's fine. We are on a time crunch. Second, I am going to put the LTA purely because it does feel like, to a certain extent, we aren't going to see like all the matchups that we would want to see throughout the course of a split, or at least there's less of a chance of that happening, whereas like the LCK and LEC, we are guaranteed to see them. But for that reason, I'm also going to put that LCK Cup for winner, clear number 1. I love what they're doing with group stage and making 5 teams compete like alongside each other to try and smash the other group. And it brings back something that Lock-In did quite well, which was having like teams pick one another. I love like that old school kickball on the playground style, like team captaincy thing where you're just going down and trying to pick the best people you got. It's something I do with the kids that I teach up in Queens whenever we do like games and stuff like that. I always give like the captaincy and like letting people pick an order. And people are like, oh, I'm getting picked last. I literally tell them, I was like, okay, so get better so you are not pick last. And they're like, that's not fair. I said, get good. I'm not sugarcoating it for you. Or spring split of the LCK. This is a return to normal for everybody. It's just going to be a double round robin best of 3. But the weird part about this one is that when we're qualifying for the international event, there is going to be no winner of this split. It is just simply the top 2 teams move on. So in their gauntlet that they have that will determine who goes to MSI, the 1 and 2 seeds play each other. The winner automatically goes, and then the 2 seed gets a second chance at the 3rd seed. But you never see that finals rematch at all. Like, it just does not happen because they do not want to crown an LCK champion until the end of the year, which is a ballsy decision. I like it in theory. I like it like as a whole and what it will do for like the meaning of an LCK title, which I think was going to be the most meaningful domestic title in all of League of Legends. But that is going to have a pretty severe negative impact on Spring Split. You are going to get a major sense of blue balls by not getting that finals matchup. So for that reason, I'm just going to preemptively rank this at 3rd, no matter what. 3rd. For the LEC, they are going to be adopting what was the LCS format from summer. It is going to be a single round robin of best of 3s. The bottom teams eliminated. You go into what was, I think, the spring LCS playoff format where top 4 seeds get double elimination, bottom 2 do not, or something along those lines. It's very similar to that old format, which honestly, I loved from summer. I loved every single bit of that. So solid. And one thing that I think is going to be important to note here for the LEC that probably will bleed over into the LCK, but we don't have like specific guidance on it yet, is that teams will be able to take the LEC on the road during the split. What that means is there are going to be 7 weeks of best of 3s in the regular season, and Riot is allowing teams, if they want to host a week at their own venue, they can. And as is evident by the fact that K-Corp sold out a 20,000 seat stadium for just their team, let alone an actual LEC match, yes, that is going to be freaking fire. Now, I do wonder what kind of limitations Riot might put on the venues because they don't want it to show up the LEC finals and the events that Riot put on themselves. I mean, I think there will be an ego check involved there from Riot rather than Riot just making the decision to put on the best events themselves and let teams, if they can host an event that outshines them, well, guess what? Then Riot, you got to up your game. So I am interested to see what happens there. But nevertheless, like them going on the road just makes this like spring split for the LEC is going to be chef's kiss. I cannot wait. And what this means for monetization going forward for the region as teams get more and more chances to host their own events. Oh, this is what I want to see from esports if we're going to do leagues like this. And finally, for the LTA, pretty much the same thing as the LEC, but best of 1 double round robin instead of best of 3. And on top of that, no road shows to our understanding because no team has done the work that they need to do to make sure that we get those road shows. Nobody has regional ties. Nobody has fandoms like that outside of LA that they can do that. I mean, maybe they'll work on something like that, but it's bluntly clear, like, I just, nobody has that kind of tool. Nobody's put in the legwork to do so. So because of that, I'm going to put the LTA second. The fact that there still is going to be a winner, I like that, especially given the fact that like North and South conferences don't interact during the split at all. It is purely just like an LTA North. Fend for yourself, best team in the region, only one team from the North goes. So because of that, I really like this. I really like that side of it. I really hate the best of 1. So LTA second, LEC first. And finally, for summer, arguably the most important. Don't forget, like summer is that season where you need to make things a little bit more interesting because otherwise things can get boring. It is interesting to see how each region is approaching this particular split because they're handling it differently. The LCK is coming from the point of view of we want our top teams to be battle tested. The way it works is that basically the top 5 teams from the LCK in spring will be put in their own group and the bottom 5 will be put in their own group. And you play a triple round robin against those teams, which means we'll see like T1 versus Gen G 3 times and a best of 3 during that stretch. And then again in playoffs potentially for both an upper bracket and double or like lower bracket elimination game. I am worried about the repetitiveness of this particular format. Will it mean that these teams are absolutely battle tested for Worlds? Yeah, it will. But will that be the most entertaining thing to watch as a fan as I've already seen T1 versus Gen G this time before? No, I don't think it's going to actually do all that well. Do I think the LCK wins Worlds this year? Yeah, I do. Like this format is just gonna, oh god, unless it burns somebody out really bad or like burns the team out that you would think would win, this should just solidify the LCK's chance of winning Worlds again. The LDC does feel like they're kind of taking a similar approach by formatting their summer, kind of like Worlds, where teams are split into 2 different groups. You play best of 5s against everybody in your groups. The top 2 teams from each group automatically move on to playoffs. 3rd and 4th do the same thing that we see at Worlds and at MSI, where you like swap and then play each other and then try and qualify up into playoffs. I think this actually will be good because Summer Split is very much about like kind of mirroring Worlds to a certain extent. I think this will be entertaining, but nothing compares to what I think Summer will be for the LTA, which is basically for the first half of it, the worst teams have to pick a better team than them to play against and say, I want to beat you. It's a little bit complicated. If you want to go watch my full video on like the LTA format, you can. But during that stretch where the loser is picking the person above them, nobody really gets eliminated. It's more of just like a for fun, like call your shot type thing. What happens then is halfway through, it flips and the winners pick a loser and have the chance to eliminate them. So you're calling your shot on who you want to wipe out of Summer Split. And I love that. Oh my god, is that going to be fun? It's going to be so entertaining. All best of 3s, all series. Is it the most amount of games played? No, the LTA has like the least amount of games out of any region, I think. Or at least that's the perception that it gives. We'll see it in practice. But dear god, is it going to be entertaining? And then what happens is your top teams from the LTA North go and face the LTA South and just one giant bracket, to which I still wish Riot would eliminate the safety tape that is clearly on, which is one team from the North and one team from the South automatically go to Worlds. I hate that. Let it be the top 3 teams. If that's all the South, fine. I accept that. If it's all the North, I also accept. Don't be a wimp about it. But no, for now, at least one from each side is guaranteed, and the best of the remaining thing. And this will be the only roadshow that the LTA sees all year, which is a crime, but still. Despite the downsides, I am going to put the LCK 2. I do think the repetitiveness could be an issue, but I do like the fact that this is the only LCK title. It is the most meaningful out of all the regions. It is the only one that tangibly just means more than everybody else. So because of that, even though the early repetitiveness might be an issue, number 2 for the LCK, number 3 for the LEC. But overall, I think Summer Split is going to be like the strongest in terms of diversity of formats that will be fun for everybody to watch. What is kind of weird, and after like talking through this, I realized that every single region has one split in particular where I think it's going to be more fun to watch that region than the other, which should make this all very entertaining. But if you know me, you know my heart lies with getting on the road and getting in front of more people. So while I am excited for the LTA in this upcoming year, there's nothing that makes me more excited than what the LCK and the LEC have to offer with those road shows that are going to be happening just put on by teams. That, I think, is the future of esports. And while all of these formats are unique in their own individual ways, the LTA is very much playing catch up and needs to get to the point where we can do that as well. My overall takeaway from all this, though, the LCK loves playing a lot of games at all times. I think that's what fans are used to. I'm not sure how much of that's going to be burnout or not. The LEC has clearly learned their lesson from last year, and the LTA, well, we're in uncharted territory. I'm curious to know what Joe's thoughts on all this are. Personally, I still am a bigger fan of Call of Duty's format where you have the 4 or 5 different majors throughout the years that then qualify into Call of Duty Champs, which is like this bigger than life event. I get they're trying to do that with like more international tournaments, but the low amount of teams at the first international event doesn't really make it feel as impactful as MSI or Worlds. And over the past few years, the devaluation of winning your domestic leagues has gone pretty far downhill. That's why my favorite thing about LCK Summer is the fact that there is only one champion for the entire year. For the LTA and the LEC, that's still going to be a problem. A big problem, and it kind of makes it more meaningless for domestic play, but improves international because you finally have more international events, which people have been asking for a long period of time. In summary, as with every answer, it depends. Depends on what you're looking for. There's going to be people that love this and people that hate it. Me, I'm kind of right down the middle. But let me know your thoughts. Where do you stand? But most importantly, if you want to get in on those community questions for Joe Marsh and there's something that you think that I didn't hit, be sure to hit me up on Twitter or TikTok. That's going to be the spot where I majority see comments and are able to put them in. The YouTube comments here are probably going to be more about this video than anything else. But thanks for watching. Hopefully see you on Wednesday. Should be a pretty big video for this channel.